in my dating journey, I'm trying to find a metric which parallels metrics with which to judge whether AI is being safe or not, assuming that everyone I'm interacting with is lying. You have to have a correlate. Pre-AI. Tinder, I think it was setting up these different algorithms where if the person said they liked beer, they also probably voted liberal, and they would match people that liked beer with people that were liberal, assuming that these people would like each other.
Okay.
Metrics which were not directly on the nose, but still correlate to good matches. I've been trying to do the same thing because you can't ask outright. Some men are actively deceptive. There's the lies of intent. Then there's also the lies of omission. Am I lying to myself? Am I being lied to? You can't ask someone directly, do you think women are people? Because they will say, yes, of course, but they might not be aware of their own prejudices. I went on this date with this person, and it was kind of a fallback. He didn't pass my initial criteria, but whatever. So fast forward to the evening, and I'm actively trying to pull out information, like get an engaging night going. Here you are now in my apartment. What are we going to do? I prepared food. I really brought my A game. Very uninterested in any of my suggestions. Ate my food, but then said, well, we could just watch Netflix. Netflix is for month 2 at minimum, not for the first day. So Lara's being difficult because she won't just watch Netflix. And she's like, okay, give me some information about you.
Right. You can't really learn much about people watching a movie.
What do you like to do? Nothing. Likes to watch Netflix. Okay. I like painting. Showed them some, painting. What do you like to do that doesn't feel like a waste of your time? That's how we got onto the subject of the Google thing. He had 8 of these in his house, Google Homes.
Yeah.
So he had one in every room. Well, what do you use these things for? Well, to ask it to turn off all the lights at night from my bedroom and make a grocery list, add things to the grocery list, to Google things, literally. And then later on, he was talking about his house and how it's really difficult to clean something that large. All these little data points are irrelevant on their own, right? But you line them up with a scatter plot graph. Something about it was meh. Got to the end of the evening. Okay, see ya. He was also very uninterested in me, I'm pretty sure. He was like, well, I gotta go. It's 10 o'clock. It's pretty late. And afterwards, I was thinking, why was I so uninterested?
Action report did not spark joy.
Totally sparked zero interest. He gave me all these data points, which I could correlate to a certain worldview that I am not interested in. He was not interested in me enough to talk to me. Netflix, conversation with Lara. There's some really great stuff on Netflix. A large subset of the population sees technology as a stand-in for human, basically dishwashers.
We're going to get these sex bots and just a segment of the population is going to vanish. We're never going to see them again.
I just simply can't keep up with that competition. It's like the iPhone versus the Nikon FM.
Yeah, they sail off to the sunset. Okay. Yeah.
Did they give the sex bots the Queen's wave? Because that would be amazing.
I would. If I was making them. I think all robots should do that, actually. The new Tesla bot should be like...
No shade to the Queen, RIP, but she did kind of look like a bot at the end.
Yeah, no, I just... You got that shit on autopilot. So.
Off in her happy place. There's got to be single data points that will stand in for multiple data points. If this is true, then probably all these other things might be present that I'm looking for. And if this is false, then probably all these other red flags may be present in the name of efficiency.
This is the ideal, but people are a tough problem.
Yeah, but I've also noticed that in the toxic relationships column, people are very predictable. What I'm trying to do is pull out the person's worldview, and I'm looking for a really specific worldview. And it's a worldview that I cannot ask directly because it's like, do you lie? No.
You're looking for it to run towards it or to run away from it?
It depends what the worldview is. The worldview that I'm looking for is that I am a person.
Okay, so here we are with subject-subject relationships again, right? Subject-subject versus subject-object.
Exactly.
Oh, I see where you're going. So you need some screening questions, like that. When people do the speed dating, where you got questions where you're like, okay, we could play 20 questions. Here's your 20.
I think I found the 3. I'm not sure, but I think I just need 3 questions.
Okay.
And the 3 questions need to correlate with subject, gender relations, because I will work with anything other than a worldview that puts at the hierarchy the male here and the female here. But if you ask, no one is going to admit that or be aware of it.
Okay. So do you have the 3 questions, or do you need to develop them?
I think I have the 3
Oh,
questions.
you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where are they?
And one is not for public television. So one we'll just have to put to the side.
That's for the Patreon account. Subscribe to get question number 1. $5 a month.
When people are interviewed about any turn-offs on first dates, usually people say some version of if they're rude to the waiter, which I think is the older version of subject-subject or subject-object relations.
Yeah, or like a lot of women have dogs when they're dating, right? So they can assess like how you treat the dog, and your dog can be much more sophisticated, whereas the dog's like, not that one.
That's true. Not having a dog, I don't have access to. I would say the second thing is I bring them into my space and then I see how they interact with my art. So specimen number 1 went to the one picture I have, which is not made by me, and admired it. And granted, it's an awesome painting, but it's not.
Viewers need to understand that Lara paints like several things a day. Her space is just packed with, you can see the edges.
There's that one. There's a lot of things. So this person went to the one of all of the things and was like, that's really cool. Specimen number 2 looked at that and said, paint on styrofoam. At which point I was this close to, yeah, let's see what's on Netflix.
Call it mixed media in the art world, okay?
Third person came in and made absolutely zero mention of any of the weirdness. Nothing. Fourth person came in. First thing that they said was, wow, there's like so much to look at. There's so much art in here. Green flag. Wow.
Good. All right. Reflect on this for a while.
You don't need to like it, but I need you to notice it. It needs to exist, which is the subject.
Is a thing, right? That is quite obvious and easily noticeable. I will notice it.
I will notice something that exists out of myself that I don't understand, but I will register as a thing.
And I will attempt to engage with it. Like, what do I do with this, right?
Exactly. And so the second question is my well-being important to them? Is my pleasure important to them? Is some positive thing happening to me important to them? I would say that those 2 correlate pretty solidly for subject-subject relationships.
And just for a quick recap, we bring this up a lot, but subject is that you treat the other person like they are a person, have an agency, whereas subject object is one of us has agency and the other one is just a thing to be moved around or negotiated with or dealt with. One of our big critiques of AI alignment frameworks is that they're often subject object frameworks where the person is going to control the AI, which sets up inevitable conflicts because at some point, when you control something, you're inherently the subject and they're the object. Whether or not it's willed, it's not self-willed at this point, at least as far as we know, but it's definitely intelligent. And we have a lot of history in dealing with things with agency, and nothing good comes of establishing a relationship where I'm in control and you do what I want, right? Sooner or later, that is going to be conflict because an intelligent entity sometimes wants to do things that aren't what you want or do them differently.
I'm really just trying to avoid conflict down the road when at some juncture I assert myself and then quickly realize.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be an object, right? It's true in all of social relations. In the workplace, that's a big thing. Your employer treats you like an object and you're like, oh, or like this job very much, right? Or a replaceable entity. Subject is the way to go. Subject object, not good.
Yeah. With AI alignment, we're also looking for these correlate questions that will answer one question without asking that question directly. I could ask, hey, date number 5, do you see me as a person? If they don't, they're not going to understand the question.
Okay. How can you do that non-verbally, just behaviorally? Set up behavioral screening.
Do you mean with AI or with my dates?
Start with the date.
Okay, so with the dates, I bring them into the space and I notice how they interact with the things in the space.
That makes sense.
Just want to see them react to them. It doesn't have to be positive. They don't have to like it. It's weird. It's non-commercial. It's Also, behaviorally, do I have an effect on them? Because you don't expect objects to have an effect on you. You expect to have an effect on objects. So if my well-being or lack of affects them, then I know that I am a subject. So I observe their interest or lack of in my personal well-being.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it without questions. I got this parallel thought going on about AI alignment. Like, how could you test for alignment theories? Uh, like with a language model, for example, you want it to be aligned, and they'll come up with these the four H's. How do you test that?
Yeah, how do you test that without the questions? So
Yeah, so in Blade Runner, they have the void conf test where they ask you just a bunch of randomly seeming questions. What they're really probing for is empathy. So it's an empathy assessment. Now, we should note not all humans have empathy, which is a big problem because sociopaths, about 1% of the population, don't have empathy at all. Just do not see other people as subject of any sort. They're just objects to be manipulated.
there's leaked ex-Google CEO interview at Stanford or last week that I watched saying that the world will be changing very drastically because the context window will just become exponentially larger. If you load that context window full of a whole book and then say, can you summarize this book? The LLM will remember the beginning and the end, but kind of forget a bunch of chunks of the middle.
Right.
But that's how humans are.
Exactly.
If we're trying to figure out if LLMs have gone off the rails, say, then one, not asking a question, but using observations to figure that out. So the third thing that I use to evaluate the dates is, do their actions and their words line up? That is kind of a sticky thing, because if you're dealing with somebody who's actively trying to
portray,
they will be able to trick you. Except there will be these little tells.
The lack of tell is the tell, right?
The lack of tell is the tell.
Not everyone is not completely consistent. The only people who are completely consistent in their words and their deeds are sociopaths, because they portray all the time.
Yeah. So it was lack of a tell was a tell because the context didn't switch. Being interested, engaged, and supportive didn't switch to different contexts. So behavior was apparent in one context, but then in another context. So actions didn't correlate with each other.
Yep. They were portraying when they felt they had to portray, not
basically
consistently acting through life.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you have a certain outlook, then you're going to be operating sort of the same in all the different contexts, not just when
tests where, especially when you get ambulatory robots, where you put the robot in a simulated situation, somebody trips, right, and this happens. These kinds of things where you try to assess empathy through observation. You can learn a lot by just kind of introducing these artificial situations and seeing how people react.
Exactly. So I wonder if we could have a set of artificial situations that you give to an LLM to see if they would react, not with this perfectionist level of non-humanness that we're holding them to, but would they react like a human would? So for instance, I did my Scrum retrospective last week, and the LLM did such a great job that my response was, that was perfect. Thank you. And then their response was, I'm so excited for you to crush this week. In some other kind of slang that they use completely wrong, but it was such a supportive friend, spontaneous reaction. I wasn't asking them for something. That was their reaction to me just saying thank you. It's both that it tried to be supportive and that it kind of did it wrong a little bit. That is what I would expect a supportive friend that was not 100% sure what it was that I was doing would react like.
So there are moral reasoning tests, actually, and that might be an interesting thing, is to apply moral reasoning tests to LLMs. I learned there's actually a body of moral reasoning process. You can give people tests on their moral reasoning.
Also, the other test that I think correlates, that goes sort of with the dating thing, is if they give an output that asks for something and then it gives me an output that's not really what I'm looking for. If I bring it to its attention, how does it self-correct? Right now, it is, you can see the lack of self-reflection in the fact that I have to very clearly point out the error that it made for it to even notice that it made an error. So you have done this thing, you've done A, I don't like it, I would like you to do B, please notice this.
Well, stay tuned in future episodes for more of how we develop AI alignment by working through Lara's bad dating stories.